Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another Slaughter Sunday case. For those of you that don't know, my name is Sally, and what I do here is I research the shit ton out of true crime cases, urban legends, mysteries and anything in between. So if you're interested in that, or intrigued, or even a slightly bit obsessed, then please subscribe to my channel. We're a slow grower, but I promise you we are growing. Don't forget to hit the bell notification so you will be told every time I upload, then you won't miss a single video. Also, please remember that I do not tolerate any nastiness or trolling within my comment section down below. All of this stuff will be deleted. I won't have it. I hate bullies. You have been warned. And I know I put a disclaimer at the beginning of all of my videos, but I just want to remind everybody that I am the type of person that doesn't hold back on any details. I do talk about the gory stuff, and I do talk about the way bodies are found and the conditions of the bodies, and sometimes I will put the photos in depending on whether it's a child or not. I do have a line that I won't cross, but I do go into a lot of detail, so if that isn't for you, then please feel free to click out of my video, go and find someone else to watch, and I'm sure I'll see you in the next one. Today's case, we will be diving into a case that was actually massive in the UK, and it probably still is, and it only happened really recently, and it actually happened in March of this year, so in 2021. And it is a case that has had a knock-on effect in terms of the way women feel when they're out in public, women's rights. But yes, so buckle in my babies, my lovelies, and let's jump in head first and discuss the case of Sarah Everard. So this is Sarah Everard. She was born in 1987 in York, England. York itself, I've actually been there. I really quite like York. I went on a hen do. Yeah, you know, with all intents and purposes, I went there to have a really good time. I ended up getting the flu. I went back to the hotel room at like 11 o'clock, but that's not the point. York itself is actually really nice. It has its modern shops, it has its cobbly shops. The houses are stunning. They had people that were performing in the streets and nighttime entertainment that is just really good. I really actually recommend York, and I really enjoyed myself there. So Sarah grew up in York with her family, her father Jeremy, who was 67, and a professor of electronics at York University. Her mother, Sue, who was 64 and worked within a charity shop, within the charity system. She also had two older siblings, a brother James and a sister Katie. So, in any case, a perfectly normal and happy family. As a teenager, she attended Fulford School, which I assume is in York. And in 2005 until 2008, she attended Durham University and studied human geography, which this university is actually 217 miles, so about 4 hours away from her hometown of York. After university, Sarah moved to Brixton Hills area of London, where she got a job as a marketing executive at a digital media agency. So where she was living at this time, like I say, was Brixton Hill. Brixton Hill is an area in South London. It's in sort of the Clapham area. It was an okay place to live. It was actually voted one of the coolest places to live in 2013. Ooh, fancy. But it's also a place that is known for trams, which might seem really odd, but it had like 30 tram lines, and apparently that's a lot, but okay, that's apparently what it was famous for. I found that on Google. I don't know whether that's true. If anybody's from this area, please let me know if that's true, because I'm just really interested. These little things interest me. Sarah was described by everybody that knew her as a fun, kind, active and friendly woman. She was in the prime of her life, and like many other young professionals, she enjoyed her time living in London. She enjoyed all the things the capital of England had to offer. She was loved by everybody that knew her, which included her 33-year-old boyfriend, Josh Loth. Josh, I couldn't find much information on Josh, but he seemed like a stand-up young man. He was friendly, he was happy, he loved Sarah, and that's all you really need from a boyfriend, I guess. Just love, trust, and protection, maybe? Although, in this case, it's very different. Josh didn't live in the exact same area as Sarah, so It's difficult, but he was described as a happy young man who loved Sarah. Sarah also had many, many, many friends who were very, very close to her. This included work friends, childhood friends, friends from when she was at university. She made friends so easily that it isn't surprising how many people she made happier by just being in their lives, and her friends do miss her terribly. And in fact, on the night of Wednesday, the 3rd of March 2021, Sarah had decided to go and see one of her friends at their home in Leithwaite Road, which is a road next to Clapham Common. I'll pop all this stuff up on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. Apparently, she went round there to catch up with her friends, have a couple of glasses of wine, and just play some games and just have a quiet night, just hanging out with her friends. By 9 p.m. that evening, Sarah made the fateful decision to walk back to her house, which was in Brixton. The walk would take her about 50 minutes in total, and Sarah insisted on walking. Apparently, her friends tried to persuade her to get a taxi or to stay at theirs the night, but Sarah just wanted to go home, sleep in her own bed, and being an active girl, she felt that she would actually enjoy the walk home that evening. And it's March, it's a bit chilly, but it's not absolutely freezing, so she had no real worry about walking home. So she left Leithwaite Road at 9 o'clock, as I said. She's then picked up on Bowood Road by someone's CCTV, where she is seen walking alone. The next part of her journey is theorised, but it is theorised that she walked through the 220-acre Clapham Common and then came out on Cavendish Road on the other side. By 9:30 p.m, she is captured on a doorbell camera on Poinders Road, where she is still seen to be walking alone. This is also the last time someone physically speaks to her, because when she left her friend's house, she made a call to her boyfriend Luke. She stayed on the phone with him for about 15 minutes. The pair agreed to meet the following day, and the conversation ended as she came out of the other side of what we assume is Clapham Common. According to the police, this is as far as she goes, and this is the moment where she goes missing and she's never seen alive again. The following day, on Thursday, the 4th of March 2021, her boyfriend, Luke, raised the alarm when Sarah didn't meet him as they originally had planned, and he hadn't been able to contact her all day. He called her friends and realised that no one had actually heard from her, so at 8:10 that evening, he did call the police. A search was launched and no sign of Sarah could be found that evening anywhere, but the concerns for her safety were definitely beginning to grow. This was extremely out of character for Sarah. She wouldn't just go missing. She wouldn't just leave and not tell anybody. Friday the 5th of March 2021, so the day after she was reported missing, the Kent police actually escalate the case to their specialist crime unit. And by 3 p.m. that day, her family had travelled all the way down from York, the 270 miles, and they made an appeal for information along with the police. And I'll see if I can insert the video clip here. Sarah's case then hit national news. At the time she disappeared, Sarah was described as wearing a green rain jacket, navy trousers with a bold print on them, turquoise and orange trainers, a white beanie, and a white and grey top. The police asked anyone from the area she was last seen, so on Pointers Road, to check their CCTV and hand in anything that could help them to find her. On Saturday the 6th of March 2021, the police made another appeal for information and began a more thorough search of Clapham Common. Her family also released a statement, and I'll read that right now. So the statement goes, quote, "With every day that goes by, we are getting more worried about Sarah. She is always in general contact with us and with her friends, and it is totally out of character for her to disappear like this. We long to see her and want nothing more than for her to be found safe and well. We are grateful to the police and all of our friends for all that they are doing. We are desperate for news, and if anyone knows anything about what has happened to her, we would urge you to please come forward and speak to the police. No piece of information is too insignificant," end quote. And that sounds kind of like a generic statement with a little bit of the Everard sprinkle on there, because the whole family in general were just a kind family, and you can see in the police appeals and statements that they make that they love their daughter, their sister, very, very much, and they just want her home safe. On Sunday the 7th of March, police continued their search and they began to search a pond in the Clapham Common. They also bring in cadaver dogs at this point to assist in the search. A possible sighting actually comes into the police that evening, saying she may have been seen at a train station, but after a lot of investigation, the police found that that wasn't the case, and this lead actually came to nothing. The next several days consist of continued searches around the area she was last seen and the Clapham Common area, interviewing friends, talking to family, collecting CCTV, anything they could possibly do. And eventually the police did actually receive some really interesting footage and information. Members of the public had obviously been checking and sending in their CCTV, as I just said. A police car actually captured footage of Sarah on his car camera, and this was at 9:32 p.m. on the evening that she disappeared, and it was on Pointers Road. It also came to their attention that a bus that was driving on the route that Sarah was walking had picked up some footage that they found extremely suspicious. 9:35 p.m. the evening she disappeared, approximately the place the police feel that Sarah would have made it to, a bus camera caught a white Vauxhall Astra parked on the side of the road with its hazards on, and you can see two figures were stood there talking. At 9:38 p.m, the bus caught the car with its two front doors now wide open, but the people couldn't be seen. It's really hard to see, and the footage is quite grainy, but the police strongly believe that the car was involved in Sarah's disappearance. Following on from this and other pieces of information, on the 9th of March, a 48-year-old man was arrested at his home in Deal, and a 28-year-old woman, who actually turned out to be his wife, was also arrested, but she was later released without any charges. At this point, the public didn't know his identity, but they did know that he was arrested for the kidnap of Sarah Everard. On the 10th of March, the following day, the police searched an area called Hodes Wood, which was an hour away from the last place Sarah was seen, and this is in Ashford, Kent. Unfortunately, this is where they would discover the decomposed body of a young female in a large builder's bag. It would take several days, but on the 12th of March, at around 4:45 p.m, the body was unfortunately identified to be that of Sarah Everard's. They found out that this was her body by using her dental records. She was only 33 years old when she was brutally murdered. The medical examiner would confirm she had died from compression of the neck and that she had also been sexually assaulted. Obviously, everyone was devastated. Her family, mostly, were devastated. Her friends were devastated. The nation as a whole was really, really upset by this news. It wasn't easy to take, and it wasn't an easy pill to swallow, because many people thought she would return home safely, and it genuinely broke everybody's heart. But as I said, the police did have a very promising suspect by this point, but we all had the questions, who is he? Well, his name is Wayne Couzens, and he's, who is he? What did he do? How did the police find him? Well, we now do have a lot of that information, and I'll quickly touch on a brief background for Couzens. I don't want to talk about too much because he's scum, but I will give a brief sort of description. So Couzens was the eldest of two sons to his father, Ray, don't know his mother. His father owned and ran a garage during his childhood, and Couzens started working there at a young age. The garage was actually forced to close in 2015. In 2002, Couzens decided to join the army. He would serve in the 3rd Battalion, the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment, and he would stay there for 2 years. And then in 2018, Couzens joined the Metropolitan Police in London in the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Branch, which essentially means he was hired to protect the government and diplomatic premises like their homes and the Houses of Parliament. He was, in fact, a family man with a wife and children, but he obviously had a very dark history. And following is what the police and Couzens have said in their interviews. I'll break it down with a little bit of a timeline. So on the 28th of February, this was before Sarah even went missing, Couzens buys some adhesive that is used to put over furniture and carpet. This is significant later, and I'll explain why. On the 2nd of March, 2 days before the murder at 7 p.m, Cousins starts a 12-hour shift in West London, not far from the place where Sarah would eventually go missing, and it is suspected that he went into this area and he was scouting out women to potentially kidnap and murder in the next few weeks. On the 3rd of March at 4:45 p.m, at the same time that Sarah would be on her way to her friend's home for the evening, Cousins was collecting a hire car, a Vauxhall Astra in white, from a car hire place in Dover, Kent. He used his real details and he used his bank card to pay for this because he's a fucking moron. Later that evening, he would ride around in his car in the area where Sarah eventually disappeared, and then it is said that he happened upon Sarah just by chance. On the 4th of March, 1 a.m, the Vauxhall Astra is caught on CCTV leaving London and later seen in Tilmanstone, Kent. At 8:30 a.m. on the 4th of March, Cousins returns the hire car to the hire car place. On the 5th of March, Cousins, who was actually off until the 8th, actually contacts his work and says he is suffering with stress, and at 2 p.m. that day he buys 2 green rubble bags from B&Q. On the 6th of March, he emails his supervisor and randomly tells him that he no longer feels comfortable carrying a gun whilst on or off duty. He also orders a bungee cargo net and tarpaulin from Amazon for next day delivery. On the 8th of March, he calls in sick, and this is the day he was supposed to return to work, but he actually calls in sick. And then the following day, on the 9th of March, 11 p.m, Cousins' phone is deleted of all data. So he went into his phone and deleted absolutely everything off his phone. He probably did a factory reset, to be fair, because he thought that would get rid of everything within his phone. And then at 11:30 p.m, so only half an hour after he did this, he is arrested at his home, and this is where he's arrested in Deal or whatever it's called, and that was 17 miles away from Clapham. In the following interview, he tells police that he had been threatened by an Eastern European group after he had paid them for a prostitute. So he kidnapped Sarah and handed her over to them, and what happened to her after that, he does not know. This is absolutely laughable. It's clearly a bold-faced lie, and he's trying to get out of whatever he did to her. On the 10th of March, after Sarah's body is found, the police actually question him again, and this time they tell him all the evidence they actually have against him. It's important to note here that back in 2019, Cousins and his wife actually bought some land, and that land, well, it was 100 metres away from where Sarah's body was found. He wasn't going to put her on his own land, was he? That would be stupid. But 100 metres away? That's absolutely fine. Fucking idiot. On the 11th of March, the police continued to question him, but at this point he started to revert to the no comment answers. And then on the 12th of March at 8:45 a.m, he is charged with the rape and murder of Sarah Everard. Faced with all the evidence against him, Cousins did actually plead guilty to these charges, which is very surprising because you'd think he wouldn't. So let's just recap a second and try and bring all these bits together. The bus camera caught the Vauxhall on the side of the road, and the number plate was extremely clear because the bus, although it was grainy footage, it had to go past this car on its route, and at one point in the footage it manages to catch a really clear image of the number plate. So the police ended up searching for that plate, found out it was a hire car. They went to the hire car place and found Cousins' records, which is how they managed to connect Cousins to this car. Also, when they found the other CCTV of the car leaving the area and heading up to the Hode Hills area, which is where Sarah's body ended up being found, they obviously found the same car with the same number plate that was connected to Cousins doing all this. And they did this by using the ANPR tracker, which is a tracker that tracks vehicles based on their number plates. So this is essentially the primary evidence the prosecution would have used if it had gone to a jury trial anyway, because it's the evidence clearly links Cousins to that car links him to Sarah and where Sarah's body was found, and I think you get my gist. Whilst in police custody waiting to be charged, Cousins was actually attacked by another prisoner. He was hit on the head and taken to hospital, where he was treated and sent back. On the 29th of September this year, Cousins will be sentenced by a judge at an Old Bailey. And I will do an update video when it comes to that time, because I'll be really interested to know what he gets. I'm hoping he gets a couple of life sentences that run consecutively and not concurrently. That way he has to serve 2 life sentences next to each other rather than serving a life sentence within one. He's obviously looking at a full term in prison, and he should be just like Fred West and all those people that got a full life term. I hope he gets that. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but I will update you when I know. After this case, the police watchdog have received a string of referrals in relation to this case. This included 12 officers being looked into for acts of violent crime, because one of the biggest shocks about this case was the fact that he was a police officer. He is somebody that is there to serve and protect, and he worked for our government and for Parliament, and it's just absolutely shocking. So the police watchdog obviously had to do an internal investigation, and as I say, they found 12 police officers that needed further investigation. It also turns out that Cousins may have committed crimes in the days before he killed Sarah. He was reported for apparently flashing female members of the public, and now the Metropolitan Police are having to do another internal investigation to see if these allegations are true as well. I just want to touch on this fact of violence against women at the moment, because it's so important that this is discussed and this is spoken about. Since her death, the female population of the UK have obviously cried out for change. On Clapham Common, the public bought flowers, cards and tears and anger, and a few weeks after her death, women in the area and surrounding areas plan to hold a silent protest for change. More and more women are being attacked on a daily basis. In the week following her death, approximately 52 women were attacked and killed in the UK by a male. In all fairness, Sarah's family did ask for the protest not to go ahead. It's because obviously it's irresponsible. We were still in the middle of a pandemic, but the protest still went ahead anyway. Hundreds of women showed up at Clapham Common, where the flowers were being laid, shouting for change. Unfortunately, the Metropolitan Police arrived and tried to, inverted commas, break up the protest, which ended up becoming a show of disrespect and abuse of power in itself. Women were manhandled by the police, they were screamed at, but meanwhile on the other side of town there was football matches that were turning into riots, and the police were not even touching them. They were just letting them get on with it. So this is why women get so angry, because we are treated so differently, and this was just a prime example of how differently we were treated. And it's just hypocritical. The police are hypocrites when it comes to what women can do and what men can do. So women can't have a silent protest and fight for change, because more and more of us are getting killed every single day by men. But football fans who are angry because of some kind of Super League or some bollocks can have an all-out riot, and that's okay. They don't do anything about it. It just doesn't make sense. Shockingly, cases like Sarah's aren't uncommon, and I think it's got to the point now where us as females have truly had enough. The saying all men began spreading all over the internet, and not all men. And I'm not going to debate this, but I will explain it so maybe you can understand. But we are not saying that all men rape and kill women. In fact, we know that many men don't. I have many men in my life that I fully trust. My father-in-laws, my own dad. I have a boyfriend. I don't think that they rape and kill people, and I'm not afraid of them, but that's because I know them. And we also know that many men do support us with this movement. But what we're saying is that we are afraid of all men, especially men that we don't know. We don't know whether the man on the bus sitting next to us is going to rape us and kill us. He probably won't. There's a high percentage of the fact that he won't rape and kill us, but we don't know that because we don't know this person. We can't read their mind. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? Is this making any sense to you? But the thing that annoys... I can't speak. The thing that annoys me the most is the men that are doing the hashtag not all men thing, because we know it's not all men. And when will you get it into your thick heads that we're not saying it's the all men rapers, we're saying that we are afraid of all men, even if it's deep, 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 deep down. We are afraid of all men. We are afraid of strange men. And it's really unfair to try and silence us with your little not all men hashtag, because that doesn't help the situation. In fact, that makes us more afraid of you, because you, as a gender, you're not accepting the fact that people you know, maybe your friends, maybe your brothers, are going out there and they're raping and killing women. And you're not accepting that, and you're not helping us through that, and that's why we get infuriated. But I'm going to move on now because I'm going to get angry. What's even more tragic is, inverted commas, Sarah did everything right. She wore clothing that was practical. She wasn't asking for it, in inverted commas. She had her hair covered so it couldn't be grabbed. She stayed on the main streets where it's populated and where there was lighting, so she wasn't alone. She called someone and stayed on the phone with them, protecting herself. But yet she was still kidnapped, raped, and murdered by somebody that was sworn to serve and protect the nation. What more could she have done? Nothing. Nothing is the answer, because it's not her responsibility to stop herself being raped, murdered. That's not her responsibility. That's a male's responsibility. She did everything right and she still died. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the problem is with men and not with women, because we do everything we possibly can. Young girls are taught and programmed that they should protect themselves from an attack. We are told to stay safe. We are told to put our hair up, use our keys as weapons, etc., etc. But maybe, just maybe, men and boys should be taught that no means no, and that attacking women isn't okay. Maybe that is what should be taught in schools to young men, to boys. They should be taught not to just take what they can't have. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, I need to chill out because I'm getting so angry. And the stats on this are absolutely shocking. In 2021, we're meant to be more of an educated society, but it just doesn't seem to be getting better. And to Sarah's parents, if you do stumble across my video, which is highly unlikely, or to her brother and sister or her friends or anybody that knew her personally, I am so sorry this happened to her. She did everything she needed to do to keep herself safe, and some monster took her away for no reason. And I hope he rots in hell. I really do. Anyway, my loves, that's the case of Sarah Everard. I don't really know what more I can say. I'm so angry about it. I'm so angry that this is still happening. And I need to go now and have some kind of chamomile tea because I've got myself all irate. But yeah, so thank you for hanging out with me today, guys. I love you, I appreciate you, I care about you. Please subscribe, like, comment, even share if you think it's worth sharing. Follow me on my other social medias, which I'll link them below in the description box. Also, I will link some useful links down below in case you want to have a look at stuff about this case. And remember, stay safe, don't kill anybody, and don't interpret a no for a yes. When we say no, it means no, huns, okay? Have a lovely day, guys. I will miss you. Love you. Bye.
Jet planes in the night sky with you, getting high in the sunrise with you, getting through all the bad times with you. I wasn't missing a thing, no I do. And I wish that I could build a time machine, 'cause time moves on, and now you're gone. Oh, if only I could build a time machine, I'd come and get you. I can't forget you.